5 exercises to strengthen your core after C-section. So these are 5 amazing postpartum exercises, whether you have recently had a cesarean or it's been many years and you're tired of that numbness in your lower abdominals. These 5 exercises can be absolutely amazing to help you wake up your pelvic floor, your deep core, and your abdominals. So let's start with pelvic tilt. So in order to get into this position, I always recommend that we start from our side and then roll on to your back. So once you're here, we want to think about our pelvis just being heavy. You can like wiggle back and forth. And I want you to start to rock that pelvis, arching that back, and then letting that pelvis drop and tuck. But I want you to start now doing it with your exhale, okay? So we want to exhale as we gently allow our pelvis to tilt, starting to wake up. Pelvic floor, lower abdomen. You can even put your hands on your lower belly so your brain starts to think, oh, I want to wake up that lower abs right where that cesarean scar is. And then inhale, arching that back, thinking about like spreading between the hip bones. And then exhale, gently drop on that pelvic floor, lower belly. So it's very gentle. And then as we inhale, we arch. So notice when you're doing this, it's not about just rocking your pelvis back and forth. It's all about using your breath to help to stimulate pelvic floor, lower belly activation. And again, you might find, gosh, Eric, I can't move very far. That's perfectly okay. We have to start with where we are today. Just keep rocking that pelvis back and forth. Keep the hands on your lower abs. And then we're going to slowly progress into a full hip roll. So the first part of a hip roll is a pelvic tilt. It's just what I'm doing right here. And again, even if you don't feel anything in your abdominals, in the lower abs, or your pelvic floor, that's okay. We have to sometimes start in that space of not feeling anything, but the more you practice, will all eventually start to wake up. So you exhale, we're doing that pelvic tilt, but we're continuing on. And then right before we lift our glutes, we have to activate glutes and hamstrings to slowly roll up. Now, in the beginning, you may not want to go very high because we never want to feel pain in our body. We want to stay out of our back. That's where we want to use our abs. Now, when your hips are up like this, it's so good for that pelvic floor because our pelvic floor gets a little break. We want to think about wrapping around those ribs, and then we inhale to hold at the top, and then we exhale and we nice and slow roll on down, thinking about using our abdominals to help control. Then when we get to the bottom, we release. You gotta let those glutes go, wiggle that pelvis if you want, and then it's exhale, pelvic tilt. Nice and slow, rolling up one vertebrae at a time. Notice this is not just a bridge exercise. We are articulating through our spine. I want you to inhale and hold at the top. And then exhale as you roll down, softening your spine into your mat, thinking about using your abs to help control on the way down. And I'll show you one more. Exhale, pelvic tilt into that hip roll, using those glutes and hamstrings a little bit, but try not to make sure you're not like gripping and clenching those glutes. They're on, but not gripping. And then exhale, nice and slow, articulate, and roll on down. So this can feel really good for your back too, but they're also really good at waking up your deep core. Then I want you to think about zipping up lightly, pelvic floor, low belly, seeing if you can activate anything through your core, roll to your side, and then come up to sit. So the next one is Mermaid. Oh, my clients love mermaids. They feel so good on your hips. And here's one thing I want to reiterate is, if you have a scar, you've had surgery here, right? So because of that tightness of that scar, it could also cause restriction and tightness in the surrounding areas, in part because lack of mobility for a bit, right? You've got to let it heal, but because of that tightness, like the body can want to protect itself. So doing mermaids can be really good to help open up the front of the hips, as well as actually help you to wake up your deep core. And again, you might not feel it when you do it today, but it's one of those things where you have to trust in your body, and you just have to trust that the connections, and you'll start to wake them up the more you practice. So mirroring me for Mermaid, we're going to take our back arm behind us, and you want to activate those glutes, zip up lightly, pelvic floor, lower belly. We want to come up and over to the side. So this is also a good one, right? We're opening up across the front of our hips. We are opening up across our side. We can tend to get really tight in those obliques sometimes, especially from pregnancy. And then as we come back down to sit, we want to think about growing tall through the top of our head, right? So we're thinking about internally lifting upward. That on its own is helping to wake up your deep core, wake up that tissue around that cesarean scar. So exhale, we come up, we open up the front of the hips, so we're pressing to the side, breathing into the side. So really try to send your breath when you do these, like out to the side here. So you're opening everything up, and then come on down to sit. And then we have to swing our legs around, and we will even out the sides. And again, it's very normal that one side might feel a little bit tighter than the other. So never force your body. You want to work with your body. So exhale, zip on up. We're going to lift. We're opening up, again, the front of the hip, and we are working on stretching out this side. Deep breath out to your sides, and then have a seat, lifting up nice and tall. So our core is lightly active, even if you don't feel it yet. And then exhale, lift up, open up. Good. And then growing tall and coming on down. Okay, the next exercise that can be really good after having a cesarean birth is Swan Preps, because pregnancy can shift our posture a little bit. We can tend to get a little bit more rounded, right? Tend to pull in our low back. So it's really important that we work to strengthen our mid back. Now, the key to this next exercise is, again, you should never ever feel any pain in your body more than maybe a little bit of muscle pain, because you're waking up your muscles and working them. But on this next one specifically, you have to stay out of your low back. So that's a really, really, really important piece I want to tell you before I even get you into that position. And I do recommend you watch me first and then join me on it, so you see that my range of motion is really, really small. So go ahead and join me in a minute. Watch me and then join me. Lay on your stomach. So with Swan Preps, I want your legs open out to the side. And I know you might be thinking, wait, how is this helping strengthen my abdominals after having a cesarean? Well, when we do back extensions, we actually should be activating our deep core. Plus, our mid back is also part of our deep core, so it's really important to help to balance everything out. Now, with our legs, this is a really key piece on this, is I want you to really reach your legs long. You can like wiggle the pelvis back and forth. Remember I talked about those hips can get really tight, and so I want you to reach. You want to activate your quads a little bit here. Don't over grip your glutes, and we want to think about that light zipping up of your pelvic floor, lower belly. Okay, so we are using the front of our core when we do these Swan Preps. So hands are coming back behind your chest, and you can let your head release completely down onto your mat. And you want to think about, again, reaching through those legs. So we have this nice opposition, pressing your hands down into your mat, and you're lengthening tall through the top of your head. You want to gently draw those shoulders towards each other and start to lift. Now notice, I didn't come up very high. This is like in range for probably most of you. And then you want to inhale and lower back down. Okay, you can let your head rest completely. Then it's keep reaching through those legs, because having that opposition is going to help you stay out of your low back. You want to gently draw those shoulders towards each other, lengthen, so your hands are pressing into your mat and you're lengthening forward. Okay, press down with those palms and pull, so you're getting some traction. You're thinking about waking up that mid back, and then completely release. And then do it one more time. Reach through those legs, connect between the shoulder blades, and lift up. So again, it's like bra line and above I want you working. And then I want you to release. Let your head completely go down. Wiggle those hips back and forth. And I want you to think about your breath going into your low back. So deep breath in through your nose, nice and slow. Thinking about it going all the way down towards your sacrum. This is a really good practice to do just to start enhancing our breath. Go ahead, getting that tightness out of that low back. Because as we actually start to release tightness from our low back, we can start to actually activate our abdominals more easily. Okay, so the last one I want to teach you, arch and rounds. I love them. Tuck those toes. We're going to come on back. Anytime we do extensions, it's always great that we're then going to work to round our spine, getting that nice articulation. So when we do arch and rounds, they can be kind of funky. It's kind of like a cat-cow, essentially meets a child's pose. So you can tuck your toes or keep them flat, whatever feels best. I usually keep mine tucked. And then I want you to think about your sits bones flipping kind of up towards the sky. So your sits bones are going back, and you may have to get your knees wide depending on how tight your hips are. Reaching those arms long, and our goal is we want to feel spreading between the sits bones, right? So the bony part of our butt back there. I want you to breathe back through that. And then we're going to exhale and think about lightly drawing those 4 corners of that diamond of our pelvic floor together and start to round our spine, coming part way up. And then inhale, we're going to lengthen and open back. Again, feeling that spreading of those sits bones. Then it's pelvic floor lightly activates, drawing together, and then we're rounding our spine, thinking about starting to wake up and warm up that lower abdominals. Good, inhale and open, kind of wrap those shoulders, and then exhale on this one, and you can round and come all the way up. So those are 5 exercises that are great to do post C-section. Again, whether you are 6 weeks postpartum or 20 years postpartum, those exercises, doing those on a regular basis can be absolutely incredible for your pelvic floor, for your deep core. And if you are looking for a deep dive and really learning more about your body and how to strengthen your entire body, I highly am going to recommend my core rehab program. You can learn more about it at corerehabprogram.com. And of course, if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out.